Welcome. It is Zach from WellPlayed here, and today I'm very, very, very excited because I'm here with Tymon Smektala, who is the franchise director of Dying Light from Techland. Tymon, very, very excited to be chatting with you. How are you?
I feel very good, and I'm also very excited. Like the thought that we're doing this video and you are on the other side of the world. This is really amazing. So it's an honor to be here, honor to be able to speak to your viewers. Let's go. I'm ready.
Excellent, excellent. So my first question for you, because when I saw that you were the franchise director, I was like, okay, what is the role of a franchise director, and like how does it differ from, say, game director? Because when it first came through that I was doing the interview with yourself, I was like, okay, cool, he's obviously behind the wheel on the game. And then I did a bit more research, and it's like maybe not so much.
Yeah, so definitely the role is a little bit bigger. I have been working at Techland for 12 years now, and I started basically as a junior game designer. And I went through all of the steps on the game design side, up to a lead game designer and you could say game director, but I actually didn't get the role because I was offered the role of franchise director. But at the same time, my background is in communications because I was a game journalist for basically a decade as well. I have studied at economics university, so um, I know also a little bit about communication, about presenting, highlighting what's most important about our games. So on one side, I know everything about Dying Light, how it works from kind of behind the scenes, under the hood as a game designer. And this covers Dying Light 1, Dying Light 2, and also Dying Light the Beast. On the other hand, I had a bigger outlook, which allowed me to kind of shape the communication of the game and also shape basically the games. So the role of the franchise director is someone who oversees all of the activities within the series, within the franchise, within the brand. Let's, if we look at it from the marketing perspective. So I'm not a game director in a way that I hands-on work on a game, but I'm very much involved in all of our activities on Dying Light 2 and now Dying Light the Beast. I work closely with game directors on those projects. And I also have a little input into the future of Dying Light and what we plan to do next. And even when it comes to, and not only the future, but also the presence of, for example, Dying Light the Beast. Are there any features missing? How we can position the game in a bigger landscape of games being released to make the game stand out. So it covers a lot of different areas, but I would say it's mostly the creation of games per se and how they are communicated, how they are presented to gamers.
So from a creative standpoint, I guess I think you've kind of answered it, but do you have any sort of say? Like, do the game directors say, like, come to you and go, we want to do this, and do you can not have like final say, but you would obviously have some input in decisions and creative paths that you take.
Yeah, so of course, and I think that there's a nice example that I can give to you that maybe will explain this a little bit better. And we are working currently on Dying Light the Beast, our next project, next big thing in Dying Light universe, and we were looking at how to make this particular Dying Light stand out, be different from the previous Dying Lights. And of course, there's like a lot of text. Let's do those tech improvements, those gameplay mechanics improvements, but also how we can actually make players interested again in a Dying Light game. And in the case of Dying Light Beast, we decided to go more towards the survival horror, maybe even the horror aspect. So I would say the direction of the game, how it stands out. So what makes it stand out? So this particular decision is a decision that's basically I have the biggest say in, that I influence the most. Of course, working closely with game director, of course, working closely with the CEO of our company, all of the senior people that kind of focus on our games. But I have a huge influence on that. Now, then we break it down into pieces. What exactly makes Dying Light the Beast more survival horror? So this is usually taken over by game director that breaks this down into details, but because I have quite extensive game design experience as well. I'm also involved in those talks, and I am able to influence them somehow and then be participant in those in that decision making process.
I'm gonna jump to a question I had planned for a bit later because I think you kind of touched on it a little bit here. But one of the recent press releases that you guys sent out about the Beast, there's a little bit of a quote here I kind of want to read to you because I think you've touched on it a bit there. But the quote is that Techland aims to recapture the horror and survivor elements the Dying Light franchise is known from. So I'm curious, what does that mean sort of gameplay wise, and I guess what about Dying Light 2 do you think kind of strayed from those elements a bit? I guess was that the deliberate design choice to kind of be, I guess, maybe more action? Or
Exactly, it's actually you answered the question by yourself, but I will maybe rephrase it a little bit and maybe give some insights into that. The first part of the question, Dying Light the Beast. I really do hope that this will be the scariest Dying Light game in the whole series. The nights will be scarier. The environment will also add to this feeling because it's like a lot of the map is forest, of being basically alone in the night in the forest. This is quite scary, I think, for everyone. I think that's something that everyone can relate to. We are also deliberately putting some, I would say, horror tasting, horror feeling elements in our quest design. So I think so those are the elements that we're using to make players feel more scared, but also kind of more grounded in the experience, more immersed in the world where basically there can be a very nasty zombie hiding behind any tree that he sees in front of them. Now, going back to Dying Light 2, we try to make all of our Dying Light games somehow unique. We don't want to basically repeat the same pattern over and over, the same formula. I think we have stabilized our gameplay pillars: brutal combat, natural movement, parkour, day and night cycle that changes the rules of the game. And now we apply those gameplay pillars to different experiences. And for Dying Light 2, it was a deliberate choice on our side. We wanted to make the game a little bit more accessible and push it a little bit more towards the action genre. Why? Because after the first game, we analyzed data coming from players and players' feedback, and we actually realized that when we were kind of listening to that, there was a loud voice saying, "Oh, but it's actually too scary, and the nights they are too scary. We don't want to play them. We just skip the night by going to sleep and waking up the next day, and of course in the game and playing the game during the day." So we wanted to ease that a little bit, and we wanted to make the night more accessible and generate make the whole feeling a little bit more tinted towards action. It worked well. The game is successful. We have announced already that the whole series has reached more than 45 million players. Dying Light 2 is a huge participant in that. But at the same time, we've heard from our core community that because of the decision to go more towards action, we lost something special about Dying Light. We lost something that made the game really unique. We lost something that really captured players for hundreds of hours. So we want to bring that back for Dying Light the Beast. We actually spent quite a lot of time analyzing the differences between Dying Light 1 and Dying Light to Stay Human. Also knowing better what's the direction we want to go in with Dying Light the Beast, we were able to make hopefully informed and proper choices which parts from which game to keep. So I think that's basically the reasoning behind all of those the quote that you have just quoted.
You I'm gonna try and get something out of you, maybe a little here. But you've talked about the nights are gonna be the scary, or you're hoping that the nights will be the scariest they've ever been.
Yes.
Can you give us like an example of kind of what feature or what mechanic or what it is you've included here that you think will have that impact?
I think I can give a little, but not too much, because as we are waiting this for later to fully reveal this. But I think there's one very easy answer. We just basically polished everything that we have learned over 10 years of our work on Dying Light, and particularly the night part of Dying Light. So we kind of now know how to play with visuals, with sound, to immerse players, to make players feel that they are really there in the thick of the night, surrounded by zombies. As I mentioned, we are consciously creating sequences in quest design, which are meant to scare players, which are meant to kind of get them into this feeling, that super tense feeling, that there might be something like just behind the door, just behind the corner, like the expectation of something scary to happen. We have polished our flashlight technology, so again it kind of plays nicely with the shadows all around you. You kind of don't know where is the zombie, where's the shadow, which is the shape in front of you in the darkness that you should be scared about. With the music, with sounds. We are also, like, another example that I can easily give you right now is that we are playing with the, actually what helps us is the new environment that we're introducing in Dying Light. The Beast I mentioned already, a lot of the map is actually quite foresty, quite woody. And as I said, I think this is very universal, kind of the fear of being lost in the forest. I think that's something anyone can relate to. But then this helps us because it's scary by itself. But then we also use a couple of design tricks behind the scenes, how we spawn zombies. Like, we sometimes play with the almost try to direct the open world experience, where sometimes we understand that you are in the forest and we don't spawn anything around you. It feels completely calm. We play with some sounds, and then suddenly start spawning zombies or more zombies, or kind of making you feel overwhelmed by them. So that's, there's a number of small tricks, design tricks, small improvements, taking from the depth of knowledge that we have gathered over those 10 years to kind of pull all of the strings that we feel much more comfortable pulling to make players immersed and scared by the experience.
I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. So sounds good. I do love that you're kind of definitely because survival horror is probably one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre. So I do kind of love that you're leaning more back onto that side. That's very, very exciting. I guess I should probably call out, or not even call out, but just for anyone who doesn't know what Dying Light the Beast is. Dying Light the Beast is I guess it's the upcoming game, but it features Kyle Crane, who's the character from the first game, and it's set, I think, 13 years, if I'm correct, 13 years after the events of the first game. And yeah, we now find ourselves, and I think it's Caster Woods. I'm actually going completely off script here, so this is all like memory. And essentially, from what I understand, he's investigating kind of the experimental side of things, that was and seeking revenge on a man called the Baron.
Yes, so maybe let's take over. I will maybe kind of
maybe
organize all of the bucket of information for the viewers, for the listeners. So yes, it's a new game in Dying Light series. It features Kyle Crane, the protagonist of the first game, but at the same time it connects stories of Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2 Stay Human. So if you are a Dying Light fan, I would say this is a must-have for you, because we not only kind of bridge those stories together, but we also answer a lot of questions that we have left unanswered in both of those games, mostly Dying Light 1, but also Dying Light 2. The game takes place actually a little bit more. It takes it's not 13 years after the first game, but Kyle Crane has been captured for 13 years, so there's an even bigger gap. Of course, what happened in that gap is also explained in the game. Another question that probably left unanswered. So this game will answer that. Basically, what happened to Kyle Crane after Dying Light 1, after Dying Light the following, you will get the answer for that in this game. Yes, he was captured by or experimented on by a man named Baron. Baron is a descendant of a long-standing family, like super wealthy, rich family that was running this biotech, big pharma business. So he is into medical stuff. He is into experiments. He is into playing with genomes of zombies and DNAs and humans. He was conducting some very brutal, very nasty experiments on Kyle Crane. Kyle manages to escape, and obviously, the badass he's looking for revenge. It's not that easy because Baron is a super strong presence in this area. He basically has an army. He also kind of has some influence over how zombies behave. It's not that easy to fight against him. So Kyle is looking for some support, for some kind of allies that he can use in his revenge on Baron. And as he does that, he meets people that live in Castor Woods. Yes, you got it right. It's the name of the new region. But as he meets those people, again, Kyle Kane was also always a person that was actually very open to help other people. And maybe he wasn't showing it on his face and kind of in his voice, but he was actually a champion to people that needed help. So he starts helping, and then he realizes that there's a even bigger conspiracy going there, and he tries to uncover that as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good. What I found very interesting, I actually didn't know this until quite recently. Either I did and I forgot, but so the Beast was initially going to be DLC for Dying Light 2, but apparently the story of this was actually leaked, so you did pivot to this standalone release. I guess what were the main reasons that you or the team decided to go down the standalone release, and how much has changed since the leak? I assume the story that people have seen already is different to what they'll get, perhaps, or parts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, a couple of questions. So I try to answer them one by one. So yes, we were working on DLC 2 for Dying Light to Stay Human. The story has been leaked. I can't blame anyone else but ourselves, because we basically left some protected, but still some files in the code that our data miners managed to dig out. So nothing to blame, just us. But of course, we understood the seriousness of the situation. Dying Light games are games that are built on narrative, and if you have your narrative out, if you have your story out, then you basically kill the excitement, the fun of playing a game, discovering the game for yourself for a lot of players. And unfortunately, if there is a leak, usually the most dedicated players jump on the leak because they really want to know as much as they can about the game. So they unwillingly or willingly read what was leaked, and then basically, like, your most dedicated players have half of the fun at least removed from the game. We did a big brainstorm meeting. Basically, all of the senior guys from the company, all of the senior developers, we gathered them in one room and basically said, we're not leaving this room until we kind of come up with some kind of a conclusion. And out of those conversations, we came up with the idea to basically scrap the DLC, change the protagonist, change the story, use only elements of what we had before, and basically create a new game. And that's the origin story. But as the work advanced, we actually started realizing that maybe we shouldn't even keep mentioning that origin story, because Dying Light the Beast really grew into something which is basically a super competent, super and independent game, basically a next game in Dying Light universe. So I don't want to overhype this, but it's definitely much bigger than you could expect knowing the origin story. And I hope that players will really appreciate the fact that it's such a nice offering in Dying Light series. A very nice adventure for all of the fans of the zombie genre and survival horror genre.
I think a lot of players will be excited to go back and play and get some answers and some closure on Crane's story. What I'm interested in is what made you actually choose that direction for the story. Like why did you want to go back to where Dying Light 1 kind of left off, or years after that, instead of sort of telling a new story with new characters and stuff like that?
Um, to be honest, I would say that our community had a lot of influence on that. We have realized that Kyle Crane is still extremely dear to them. Like every time when you mention, like we were of course browsing Discord, Reddit, comments on the YouTube, etc., etc. And every time when Kyle Crane name popped up, like there was like this sudden explosion of excitement. So the choice of Kyle Crane, I think it was dictated by our community, and we really wanted to kind of give some love back to our community. The fact that we wanted to continue his story and try to close some of the gaps, some of the unanswered questions from previous games. This is also always something that we wanted to do. So it was kind of left on the, let's say, in the fridge or back burner, whatever, in the studio. But this is something that we kind of always felt that there is business that we need to get back to. My role requires me to do lots of interviews like this one, and very often on those interviews and with meetings with community, with fans, I think one of them, actually, I think one of the most often asked questions I got was which ending of Dying Light the Following was canon, because it had two or even more endings. So kind of this resonated very strongly with me, and this was telling me that there is still thirst for this character, and there's still thirst to learn more about him. So I think that mostly guided the direction of choosing Kyle Crane. Now the overall direction of the game, um, we tried two different approaches with Dying Light games so far. Dying Light 1, like I would say proper open world survival horror experience, and Dying Light 2 Stay Human, more action tinted, more kind of action oriented, faster, I would say more zippy, like
Okay.
a kind of different type of experience. And having those two things on the market, it really allowed us to listen very closely to players' feedback, basically test their preferences. And I think it's clear that the heavier, more grounded, more immersive approach of Dying Light 1 it still is players' favorite. So we wanted to get back to that, but at the same time, we didn't want to just repeat it. That's why we are introducing more horror elements. At the same time, we are introducing new mechanics, not just basically going back to what we did before, but taking that, improving this with all of the learnings from Dying Light to Stay Human, and then adding a set of new features like the beast-like powers of main character, the new region, which is also an experiment for us, a bigger emphasis on boss fights. We have like a number of big boss fights with monsters called chimeras, which are effect of Barrow's experiments, a new set of weapons, a set of new mechanics. So um, I would say, like, how I like to look at it is that Dying Light the Beast is basically a culmination of everything that we did so far. It's like I hope that when players will play the game, they will realize, okay, so I see the pattern. I see that those guys did Dying Light 1. They let those experiences, they got that knowledge from this game. They tried a couple of different things in Dying Light to Stay Human. They realized that this worked, this didn't. So they didn't use the stuff that didn't work. They took the stuff that worked and now added another layer of polish on top of it. And now I got the beast. And I see that the evolution they went through as a developer. I see also how the overall gameplay of the game made that evolution. So again, if you were ever interested in Dying Light, I think Dying Light the Beast is the game that you should be really interested about, because if you were a fan, you'll get lots of answers and lots of the good stuff that you got used to. If you were thinking about getting into Dying Light and didn't have a chance to, I think this is a good entry point, because this is really like a very strong, this is basically an essence of what Dying Light is in a very strong format. Like, I have a favorite joke, I will say it to you. Like, it's actually quite dry, but I like to compare it to like a double espresso shot of coffee. Like, this is double espresso shot of Dying Light. It's actually it's super strong. It's quite big. You get it and you instantly feel energized. You get what Dying Light is about.
Awesome. Awesome. So you've touched on it a little bit, and I want to just go here. So the new region. So Castle Woods is obviously, you said it's a heavy forest area. Given that this is a parkour game, how does that kind of work? Because obviously, we've got less city, we've got more kind of thing. In my head, I'm thinking, are we going to be playing as like George of the Jungle, kind of swinging about on like vines and stuff like that? How is that parkour side or mechanics managed, in this new setting?
It's a very good question also because we actually really spent quite a lot of time trying to solve that puzzle. And our solution is that we actually didn't force ourselves to have parkour everywhere. Why? Because I think we have also realized that it's very easy to look at Dying Light and say, "Oh, it's a parkour game," but I'm not sure it's actually really that. I think it's a little bit deeper. Yes, you have parkour in it, and yes, you can get the joy of running long distances, crossing obstacles, kind of being in the flow of it. But also, there's another aspect of what we do in Dying Light, and this is the freedom that you get in Traversal. I actually think maybe that's me not being humble, even though I usually try to be. But I think Dying Light 1 did something that's not really as appreciated as maybe it should be, because before Dying Light, if you had an FPP game, you were basically constrained to corridors. Even if it was an open world game, still there were walls that were protecting you. Like you couldn't climb a building, you couldn't see what's on the other side of the fence any other way than just going maybe around the fence, right? So Dying Light, aside from bringing a very competent parkour simulator, it also gave players a lot of freedom to go anywhere they wanted. And I think we look at our Traversal more in those terms. Not only it's just a parkour game about running straight and jumping over obstacles and choosing your own way through varied geometry, but also it's basically a tool, an improvement of classic regular games Traversal, which allows you to go wherever you want, but also in a physical way. It's not like Spider-Man or I don't know, like for example, Zelda. On Zelda, you can climb basically on everything as long as you have stamina. We wanted this to be a little bit more complex in a way that you really need to use the environment in front of you. You really need to use the geometry to go where you want to, or you need to find your route where you want to go to. So when you look at castles like that, it actually offers plenty of spaces for parkour. So first of all, we have areas which are basically classic parkour. There's a town in the center of the map where you can parkour from one side to another, having lots of fun, finding your routes. It's the classic stuff. We also have, actually the map is, I said a couple of times, it has a lot of forest, a lot of woods, but it's not only that, because it has a couple of biomes, a couple of areas with different characteristics. And aside from the town, there's another one called Industrial Park, where there's like this complex of old factories where you can also parkour basically in the classic way. Then we have more natural areas. So we use rocks, we use trees, we use stone formations, also like buildings, objects that maybe were left there after the apocalypse to allow players to chain those moves together and ease in their traversal. But another thing that we do is that we try to encourage players to use the ability to go anywhere and find their own route, not by going straight, by maybe going up. So, for example, majority of our quest locations, important locations, differently than in other games, you don't walk into them using the front door at the ground floor. Majority of those places, you have to kind of observe those buildings from outside and find your way through. Oh, maybe there's a window there, or maybe there is something on the roof that I need to climb there and use it to go inside. So that's another kind of solution we applied to the challenge of the map not really being natural for parkour. You constantly climb something. You constantly kind of using your agility or your physical strength to get somewhere. And then when there are places where even that is not possible, we actually said, you know what, it's okay. Like, it's okay to stand in the middle of the field and look around you, and there's nothing to climb on. and now suddenly there are zombies raising up from the crop, and you kind of get a little bit scared about that. It's okay to also have that moment. I think they even emphasize the other areas where there is more parkour, and on top of that, we are also adding, like, bringing back a drivable vehicle in a form of this, like, very nice off-road truck. So if you don't want to walk, you can always jump into your vehicle, drive the vehicle. By the way, it also kind of uses our survival approach. So you have to fuel the vehicle, you have to repair it. So it's not just basically like an action Need for Speed car that zips through and kills everything in front of you. It, it's something that you need to take care of. But if there are areas where we feel players might get frustrated that they cannot really kind of run straight using the parkour, then there is a vehicle to help them.
It does. It kind of feeds into what you said before a little bit about you going back to kind of the survival horror stuff. So those moments where you don't have as much parkour and you're kind of in that field, it's kind of a bit slower, and you kind of, it makes it a bit more scarier, for a lack of a better term. So yeah, I like how you kind of mix it up. And from my very hazy memory of the start of Dying Light 2, I vaguely recall you kind of starting in a foresty kind of area and kind of coming up upon like an old house or something like that.
Yes, Dying Light is the one, yes.
And I did quite like that moment. So if we get more foresty kind of sections like that, I'm excited.
Actually, that's very interesting because it feels you are not alone in the feeling that you like that moment. We get it very often from our players that this was a very nice environment. They really like the feel there, and they would like to see more of it. So actually, I think Dying Light the Beast delivers on that as well. Like it has a much more of those moments.
Awesome. In terms of map size, though, so what can we kind of expect from the Beast? Because I think Dying Light 2 was obviously quite large. How does sort of the Beast compare?
It's smaller than Dying Light to Stay Human. I would say it's comparable to what we did in Dying Light 1 in terms of maps. I think you will find actually a lot of variety there. Like, don't be afraid. The map offers, as I said, few biomes. We have towns, we have industrial park, we have swamps, we have national park. So it's really a very varied map, and like we have a vehicle. So it kind of tells of the size of the map. There's plenty of stuff for you to kind of explore and discover.
Sounds good. You kind of talk about the vehicle there, and you kind of stole one of my questions. But based on that, like, are there any like kind of any other? You've mentioned about the refueling and the repairing. Are there any other features that the vehicle kind of brings? Any kind of upgrades that we can get, like flamethrowers or I don't know, anything else?
Nothing we have revealed so far. So maybe I will keep my lips high.
You're a hard man to crack. All right, so Olivier de Riviere, I always struggle with that one as well, but he's one of my favorite composers. Like, he probably is my favorite composer, right? So I'm super excited to hear his work in The Beast. But from what I've kind of seen and read online, he's very much someone who immerses himself in a project to kind of help maximize the soundtrack's impact. What's it been like working with him on The Beast?
But amazing. Like, Olivier is really, like, he's not sitting with us in our office every day. He lives in France, and we kind of work remotely, but he basically feels like someone who walks these corridors. He feels like someone who's really a part of the team. He's not just a composer that sits somewhere and sends us music and that's it. One thing that needs to be said about Oliver, that he's not only a great composer but also a great game developer, and he understands games like I don't think I have ever met a person that does music for video games that understands games as much as Olivier. He understands that this is an interactive medium. He understands all of the levers, the strings that you can pull to make his music come alive. He's very focused on not just writing music, but actually what I said, making music be interactive, making music change and shape itself as the game progresses, as the gameplay unfolds. Synchronize the music not only with the tone of the scene, but also the flow of gameplay. So he's spending as much time and maybe even more time on the game developer duties and how to make his music work with the systems of the game, and how to use the systems of the game to support his music, than on just kind of composing and recording music. So Oliver is of tremendous help, and actually he's an even bigger support than he was in Dying Light to Stay Human, where he was involved heavily. But for Dying Light the Beast, he's basically working closely with game director, sharing his feedback on various areas of the game, helping with the voice recordings as well. So he's really very, very prominent and very important part of the team. So maybe I would use the opportunity to say, hi, Olivier, thank you for your work, because you really do amazing stuff for the Beast.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear it. Very, very excited. His work's always so, it just pulls like both emotion and just, it just draws you in like further. Like I'm really keen, especially kind of, we spoke about those like kind of narrative bits. So I'm really keen to hear that side of his work with your work as well. Very, very cool. The other question I have is in terms of gameplay. So you've kind of touched on the beast's abilities or his beast-like powers. Are there any kind of other, like, because obviously melee kind of gameplay or weapon-based gameplay is very, very big in Dying Light. What can we expect that's a little bit different or new, or some sort of fancy weapon that we can get in the beast?
Again, it's safe to say that Dying Light games have always, it kept growing, but since the beginning, they were always a combination of a number of things. Of course, melee combat, FPP melee combat, something actually very unique to our game. Most of the FPP games are shooters, but we focus a lot on the melee combat. So this is our foundation. But since the first game, we were adding different tools, accessories, weapons that players could use and mix with many weapons. So we had firearms, Molotov cocktails, firecracker decoys, grenades, mines, all of that stuff. Dying Light the Beast, I think I mentioned this already. We feel that it is a culmination of all of those, all of the knowledge, all of the experiences that we have gathered during those 10 years of developing this particular series. So it kind of, again, polishes how those systems, how those weapons interact with each other, how you can mix and match them, and also adds a number of additional tools to that arsenal, to that toolbox of players. So far, we have announced the flamethrower, grenade launcher. I think actually flamethrower is super cool when you think about zombie genre, having the ability to use flamethrower against zombies. That's crazy.
In a forest, though.
Still I would say, but so far we have announced that. This is not definitely the end of the list, but I will not go further. But I think the biggest new addition in terms of the abilities that we're adding to the toolbox are the beast-like powers of the main character. Right now we're just kind of barely this kind of high level. We use a high level description of them, so I will not go into specifics. But definitely you can expect Kyle Crane to get access to a number of skills which make him super powered. Basically, he hits stronger, he jumps higher, he runs faster, he tears enemies in half, he throws big objects onto enemies. So like a lot of good stuff that probably is not even possible for a human being, but when Kyle Crane is in that state, he can actually do those things. They mostly support combat, but can also be used in kind of other applications, trying to get somewhere which is unreachable, for example. So it also goes back to what I was saying about the freedom that we give players to reach things that that maybe in other games are unreachable. They also, I think, they really shine in the big boss fights that we have with the chimeras. It's basically like monster against monster, beast against beast. So those moments are also very, very nice.
Awesome, awesome. And I guess like in both the other games, co-op is it's full co-op. You can play full co-op and cross-play and all that fancy stuff that people like. Awesome,
Yep. Yes.
awesome.
Dying Light the Beast, as all of the Dying Light games, supports 4-player co-op. So basically, you can play with your friends from start to finish and experience the story together.
Awesome, awesome. All right, kind of a little bit of a pivot here, but so 2025, it marks the release of the Beast, but it's also the 10th anniversary of the original game. So for those who haven't played it yet, is the next gen update basically the best version that they'll get, or is there a little secret remake or remaster planned at all to kind of celebrate the 10-year?
So I'm not sure what you're referring to, because I think you mixed the Dying Light 1 update, right? That we have mentioned during our
Correct.
stream, and
Yeah,
Dying Light Beast.
yeah. So that's all that players like. There's no more work to be done on Dying Light 1, right? Like that, the next gen.
No. So for Dying Light 1, yes. Okay. So for Dying Light 1, what we have announced on the stream is that there's an update coming that will try to squeeze a little bit more out of on the graphical side, and will also introduce a remastered soundtrack by
Okay.
Paweł Błaszczak, the original composer of Dying Light 1. And I think that this will stop the work on Dying Light, at least for now. Like, no one knows what future will bring. And Dying Light the Beast, of course, it uses the next iteration, our new in-house engine, C engine. It's the most advanced next-gen, basically AAA experience that we have, especially also compared to Dying Light 2. We have introduced a number of technical improvements to the graphical side. So I think with the Beast, players can really expect a much better looking Dying Light game. I think it can already be seen in the trailers that we have published for the game. So there are small kind of gameplay snippets at the end, and I think you can see how the game grows, how the game develops, and how good the game looks, even compared to our previous games, which basically hold up still very well.
Awesome. So as we said, the Beast is scheduled this year. You've kind of got a rough summer 2025 date there, which is our winter here in Australia. I guess, are you guys still committed to that time, or can you share a little month with us at all?
Absolutely not. I cannot share. Absolutely yes, we are committed to 2025. Absolutely, I'm surprised that it's winter in Australia. So
There you go. Look, if you don't ask, you don't know. So another one I've got for you here. You kind of mentioned it right at the start, but are there more stories to tell in the universe of Dying Light?
I hope so. I think so. I think we have big plans for the series. I don't think it makes much sense to kind of focus on those big plans right now, because right now the focus is Dying Light the Beast. But I hope that Dying Light will stay as a top game in the zombie genre, survival horror genre, for many years. And we are already thinking about the future. But once again, thinking about the future doesn't mean that we don't focus on the Beast, because the Beast is the big release this year for us, and this is basically the biggest release the series has since Dying Light 2 Stay Human. It's going to be a great game, at least that's what I hope. Of course, the judgment will be in players' hands, but really brace yourself for something quite special in Dying Light universe.
Awesome. In terms of the future, and I'm not going to phrase this in a way that puts you on the spot, but could you see, hypothetically, Dying Light sort of branch out, like outside of video games and into other forms of media or entertainment?
Hypothetically, yes. We are already doing that. We are preparing a launch of some comics in Dying Light universe, board games. I think especially the board games were a huge success for our partners that are working with on those. We are closely collaborating with the studios that prepare those board games. That actually they're a lot of fun to play. I hope they will not steal the attention of players from playing our games. Like they will exist in parallel, but things are happening, and of course our appetite grows. So hypothetically, in future, I can see more experiences in Dying Light universe that aren't just games.
Awesome. Speaking of the games, could we ever see a Dying Light game set in Australia? Just think about all the animals that you could use. Infected kangaroos. I mean,
Actually, now you sold it to me. Now it's done deal. Like up till infected kangaroos, I was thinking, okay, maybe, but actually, I think the Sydney Opera is not the best kind of object to climb onto because it feels quite slippery. But then when you said infected kangaroos, I'm sold. So absolutely yes, let's do that.
I'm going to hold you that one. So very, very good.
And like it's released, it will have a special thank you to Zach Johnson for kind of giving us this idea.
Thank you. I guess outside of Dying Light, and I'm just throwing darts at the dartboard now, but is Techland cooking up any new like game ideas? So I'm thinking like maybe a Call of Juarez kind of like set in like the Dying Light universe. Like, we got any other plans outside of Dying Light? I know the answer that I'll get for that, but
I will give exactly the the answer that you expect. I cannot really comment on that. We are focusing on Dying Light the Beast. This is our big release. And actually, I keep going back to the previous question because I think I have misspelled your name. So apologies for that if I did. So the big thank yous will be for Zach Jackson, right?
Thank you. You did, right.
Yeah, so apologies.
No, that's okay. It's all good. All good. All right. Awesome. The very, very final question before I'll let you take off. What are you seeing, Dying Light from, I think you mentioned that you kind of started in your role as franchise director around Dying Light 2-ish. Yep. But, knowing the kind of the history and seeing the series come from Dying Light 1 to where it is going to be with the Beast, what are you most excited for the players to kind of experience? And what's been your favorite thing about seeing this series kind of grow into kind of what it is now?
For the players, I think the most exciting thing in the foreseeable future is the return of Kyle Crane. I hope, again, you can think, but only the players will tell you. But I hope players will appreciate how we treated Kyle Crane in this game, in Dying Light the Beast, how impactful his return is, and also how impactful and how strong the writing will be, and especially the voice performance of Roger Craig Smith. This is really something special. Roger is super, kind of, he took this as his ambition to showcase all of his growth as a voice actor, returning to a character that he has played 10 years ago. So this is really good stuff. So definitely something to be excited about. Hopefully this will be as exciting for players as it is for now, for us. Looking back at those 10 years and what makes me the most proud, the most exciting, I'm super happy that a game like Dying Light exists. Why? Because I fell in love in the open world zombie survival horror that Techland proposed many years ago with Dead Island. Dying Light is in a way evolution of that. We also did the first Dead Island, and like a small backstory, I got hired by Techland because as a game journalist I wrote a analytical review of Dead Island, and they realized, oh, this guy actually thinks quite nicely in terms of what we do, so let's get him. So I have a lot of kind of sentiment towards the open world zombie game of Techland, and I'm very happy that a game like that still exists, and I hope that players will get many more similar experiences, similar but each one different in the future. I am a player that likes those very immersive first-person games. Like I really love to sit on my couch and get a look at the screen, zone myself out of everything, and basically feel like I am there. And I think Dying Light games give you that. So hopefully, I'm super happy that it's possible, that it's there. To be honest, it's also a little bit mind blowing, thinking that what we said at the beginning, that there are people on the other side of the planet that play this game. So thank you, all of you in Australia and the whole region that play Dying Light, because this is really something special for us to be able to reach out to so many places in the world. So this is really a good stuff, and I was saying, and I will keep saying, that game dev job, basically being a game developer, is the best job in the world. So if anyone from our listeners, viewers likes to give it a try, I encourage you to try it.
Awesome. I do have one little quick question based on what you've just answered. So a lot of my friends make fun of me for playing racing games in first person, like, just the screen. Like there's no wheel, there's no nothing, it's just the screen. I got to ask, if you play a racing game, what camera view do you look at?
I play FPP as well, but I'm into immersion. So I think you play with the camera on the hood of the car, right?
No, well, you can't see any hood. It's just
okay. So I don't want to make fun of you, but actually I also play in F. But I like to see the wheel. I like to see the dashboard. This kind of puts me in the seat of the driver. But I think that's also something very nice about games, that like everyone can find the experience that they like. So that's also talks about the strength of the medium. When you go to a movie, it's basically the same movie, and you just kind of have to either like it or dislike it, or be kind of neutral towards it. But in games, as we discovered right now, there's a racing game, and the same racing game can be kind of consumed and experienced and give different type of fun to different type of people. And I think that's another argument that this is a very unique medium, something very, very special.
Awesome. I agree. Well, Tymon, thank you so much for your time and chatting about Dying Light and deflecting all my attempts to kind of draw something out of you. But you've done well. You've held up. So good job. But yeah, very, very, very excited to check out the Beast in winter or summer, depending where you are, this year.
Summer. It's 35. I prefer the official wording that we use.
But yeah, very, very, very keen to check it out, and I can't wait to see what the team has done in this latest journey into the Dying Light universe. Thank you again, and to everyone watching, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.